It kind of starts that I was in business for myself, electrical contracting business, and it was doing quite well. And then there was a time towards the end of that the joy and the passion that I had for my business began to wane a little bit. And I wasn't quite sure what was going on, but it was definitely a change happening in my personality and just my focus with life in general. At that time, I began to just to go into a lot of prayer. And I remember one Saturday, I was preparing a message, and I was outside, and I was on the southwest part of my front yard. There's a rock underneath an olive tree, and I was sitting there. I just really began to sense the prompting of the Lord beginning to speak into my heart to start a new ministry. And it wasn't all that clear at that time exactly what was going to occur. But as I just sat there, he just began to impress upon my heart the importance of reaching out to families in Northwest Fresno. I just began to just talk out loud to the Lord and say, Lord, what would you name this church? I have no clue to how to even name a church. So how do we speak to it? It was out of, I believe it was 2 Timothy chapter 2, about verse 19. The foundations of God stand sure within the family. In spite of all the things that are going on and attacks that go on against the family, the God's foundation, his truth stands sure in that regard. That the foundations of God stand sure in our community. A lot of the challenges that we see in our community today, we need to know that God's truth for our community stands sure as well. That God's foundation stands sure within the church. That the church can be confident in spite of a lot of the challenges that it's facing, that the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, and that it stands sure. And then I can remember it dawning on me that, the 3 points would be what God was giving me even at that time, the name of the church: family, community, and church.
When I think about the past 15 years and just how everything began, I think about that first night, the meeting that we had in Pastor McGinsey's home. Didn't really have a real idea of what it was that he was asking us to do that evening, but as we came to his home, and he just simply handed us a booklet, and he asked each of us to read it. And as we read, we began to really see the vision coming alive on paper. As we read through it, I heard my husband make a comment. This is what a church really should be about. We were so excited. We were so amazed at what had been given to us. And for me, it was an instant thing. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was supposed to come and help in this ministry work.
We were asked by Pastor Chester McGinsey, to help him get this local church going. And he had a very, very well-operating construction company going, making pretty good money and everything. And when the Lord called him, he took 2 or 3 months off and just isolated himself alone in prayer and just left his company and established this church. And we were impressed. So when he asked my wife and I to help him organize, we had no difficulty in helping him.
After reading the booklet, we called Family Community Church into existence. That was on a Friday evening. By Monday morning of the following week, we were at a bank opening up an account in the name of Family Community Church. Not a lot of money, but whatever we had, we put in. And from that point, we were literally just running with it.
It was an exciting time. Everybody was really eager to get started and excited about a new opportunity to serve Christ. And we each were talking about our areas of responsibility, and mine was Christian education along with my husband, Willie. And our responsibilities were going to be to oversee the selection of materials for study and work with the teachers, those who were going to be teachers eventually, that I would do the training of those people. And it was just an exciting time. We had just a wonderful start.
And my wife organized the Sunday school department, and the interesting thing about it was that she had decided that most adults thought Sunday school was simply for children. So if you kept the name Sunday school, it would not motivate the older people to come to the Sunday school class, so she renamed it AM Bible Study. And that's where the name AM Bible Study came from.
It was just something tugging at my heart at this one position. And so I waited till everything was kind of over and kind of asked Pastor, what does facility coordinator entail? And it basically entailed start in the morning, go and get a U-Haul truck, go and get all of our equipment, pianos, sound equipment, everything that went into the classroom for the kids, load it on the truck, bring it over to the cafeteria, park the U-Haul, rush back home, get myself and my family ready for service that day. And in the afternoon, we got to do it all over again, breaking it down, taking it back to storage, turning the U-Haul in, and then I finally got to go home.
We didn't have any idea really what to expect at the first service. We had no idea of how many people were going to come. For me, it was just in my mind that I said, Pastor, I believe we're supposed to complete or print 300 bulletins. I'll never forget what he responded. Sister, you sure have a lot of faith.
And much to our amazement, the first sermon that was given had 300 people in that first sermon.
We had not set up for that many people. And all of a sudden, people started coming, and we would put out more chairs, and then you'd look around, and there were more people there. And it was just, the energy was all in the building. We were just so excited about having that many people show up for a new church, because that's almost unprecedented.
Mrs. Juanita Perry invited us to the very first service in 1995 the family community ever had. We went to the first service, and it changed my heart, and it changed my life.
Our family's been involved with Family Community Church for about 3 months after it started. We came the first Sunday, and I think we joined the second Sunday.
Dr. Willie Brown is the one that invited me to come to hear the pastor. He said, this is a guy that really teaches the Word.
There is a Hebrew word that speaks of raha, to make known one's presence. When we were at the school and we had formulated a property committee to go and to search out property for us. And they were looking in several locations throughout North Fresno. And I recall one Saturday morning, the Lord waking me up and bringing me on a journey. And he brought me to the corner of Chestnut and Knees. And I looked across the street at 20 acres of undeveloped land. And the Lord just really impressed upon my heart at that time, this is where a family community church would be built. And the words just burned into my spirit at that time. Now is the time to possess the land.
Each Saturday morning, the issues that came before that group were not some that we could just ordinarily handle as individuals, but we knew that if we kept praying and keeping our faith where we needed to have it, we would be able to keep moving forward.
They were looking for land rather than a facility already constructed. And the thinking was that they anticipated a lot of growth.
We were such a young church at the time. We were so young. Pastor was a wonderful leader, but many of us were young spiritually. We were young financially.
During that time, I guess what really sticks in my mind is we were trying to raise funds for this church, and I was looking at the numbers and looking at the history, and I was saying to myself all along, ain't no way this is going to happen.
Now, needless to say, did we have all the funds for that kind of a parcel of land? Absolutely not. But guess what? We know that God owns everything, and He knows exactly where you're to be and exactly what time you're to be there. And so we trusted God.
The original asking price on the property was $1,700,000. Through our negotiations, we were able to get it down to $1,150,000. And after we had settled on that final price, they were now discussing what type of deposit we would leave with them. The conventional thinking at that time would be 10%. which would be a little over $100,000. Please keep in mind, all we had at the time, church a little over a year old, was $5,000 in the bank. That was it. So as they were discussing on their side of the table amongst themselves, there was one other gentleman at the end of the table who really had nothing to say through all the deliberations, but he was just very quietly sitting there and listening. And as their side began to go back and forth about how much they were going to receive from us, this gentleman spoke up and said, "They are another church. Why don't we just get $5,000 in good faith from them and close this deal out?" And it was just really awesome to watch God work like that on our behalf. Dr. Brown, Dr. Jolie, and ourselves, we just looked at each other. We knew what we had in the bank. He raw-hogged at the right moment for us.
We had a consultant, a Christian consultant, come out from the Midwest, and he talked to the group of us, and we were talking about how to get the funds necessary to build this multipurpose facility.
The goal was $400,000, and I remember the people who were the ones helping us with the goal of raising the money had said that no church of that size, not that many people could ever raise $400,000.
How much money? I came right down to it and asked, how much money can we expect to realize? He said something in the neighborhood of about $50,000, 50 to 60, he would say. However, he said at the most, given the size of this congregation, our experience has been that at the most you could ever hope for to raise in this period of time would be about $70,000 at the most, and that was a big, if.
We had the campaign, we had filled out our commitment cards, and it was a Sunday to tally up all the commitment cards and everything, and Pastor had these bricks, and each brick represented $100,000 as I recall. And, everybody was expecting maybe, $200,000 or $300,000. But when he got up to 7 and 8, and then I believe it was number 9, it was a feeling and something that I've never experienced before, God's people coming together for a common cause like that and realizing that this is not of us, this is truly of God.
And the man who was conducting this meeting for us he could not believe it. He was just awestruck. He said, "I've been doing this a long time and I have not seen this happen before." It was just a real exciting time. And so it had to be God. It could be no one else but him.
I think our goal in missions has always been to obviously serve those in need and within that get the word of Christ out. We have some missions that we've developed in a sense within our church and are directed by members in our church. One of the probably biggest ones, the most consistent ones, has been the clothing giveaway. Stephanie Nunley and Laverne Brister are the two that head that up, and their spouses help a lot, and a lot of other people have been involved, and it's a great thing that we do. We have a couple of members who have focused at being there just to talk with people that have needs in their spiritual life, to pray with them. Care Connections is one where women and men that are older, maybe alone, that have some needs in their house or apartment to be fixed. And so what we do is once a month, after we receive those requests, we have the opportunity to have the volunteers within our church get together and actually help. So it's a chance to know sometimes individuals that may be very quiet and not involved in church in a special way, and in a sense our actions share the message of Christ. We have the family Christmas tree, which Edith Cunningham is now heading up, and Nona Johnson was very much part of when she was with us. Take the Streets is one that you basically take food and clothing and you go to where people are in some very financial and physical ways on the weak side of life. It's not just doing one side, it's doing the whole realm of things to help that individual.
I served as Director of Women's Ministry. Now, initially when Pastor asked me to consider that area of service, I really didn't want to take it. I felt like I would be a better person to serve as an assistant. But as the Lord really began to just deal with my heart, I knew that he was calling me to serve in that capacity. And really what was on my heart more than anything, and still is to even this day, is that each woman that would come through women's ministry would come to really know who she is in Christ Jesus and stand firm in that, knowing that as she stands in him, she can stand with power and authority and know that she can effect change not only in her family, in her community, and even the larger world.
When I first started as the director of the men's ministry, I had the good fortune of noting changes and growth in many of the men in the men's ministry that had moved from simply sipping baby milk to eating hot dogs. And some of them even got up to eating gourmet stuff like filet mignon. But the major thing, particularly in the course that I taught, and that course took a year of submission for men married and single. The interesting thing is, after about 2 months of that, I started getting calls at home, not from the men, but from their wives, thanking me for the direction that I was pushing the men in, because they were beginning to see a different response in their relationship, and the men were beginning to listen more and respond more and showing more intimacy in their marriage. So yes, I did see results.
So to look at where we were in 1995 and to look at how far we've come in this short period of time, if that's not stepping out on faith, I can't imagine much else that could compare to that leap of faith that our pastor had. This is truly a family. I love coming to church. I love not only the fact that we're working together towards something. For instance, we worked together to get this building, and we're working together to continue the legacy with regards to the ministry and the outreach and the missionary program that we're about to incept. But it's, as Pastor says, it's one person at a time. It's relationship building.
I had a dream of this kind of a church, one where leadership was provided, yes, but the membership had an opportunity to get involved in Christian work ministry.
If you would have told me 15 years ago that I would be sitting here being interviewed about our 15th anniversary and my role in this church, I would have probably laughed at you, but it's just been an amazing experience and one that I'll cherish the rest of my life.
Through Family Communities Church, I've been able to secure what you would call a home away from home. The members here at Family Communities Church is a loving church. It's not a group of people who think about church, this is a people who do church.
As we move towards our 15th year celebration, we do it with excitement. And the thing that we look forward most to is just seeing what is God going to do next.
Without a doubt, I believe the strengths are in the people of God. That's the core. That's what we are about. It's about building that kingdom, the kingdom of God. And that's the rule of God in people's heart.